Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall. Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall,
host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Hey there, how you doing? Thanks a lot for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Always appreciate your 5-star reviews. If you get the time, I know it's an inconvenience, but if you ever get the time to scroll down to the bottom of the menu of shows at Apple Podcasts and leave a written review and a 5-star review, that helps advance our goals and our show more than anything else. Or that 5-star review at Spotify. Grateful that you listen. I should also remind you that if you ever want to watch the video version of this for any reason, when YouTube allows it, we're on YouTube. And also you can check out the show on Rumble every day because that's where free speech lives all the time. So there is a video version of this for those of you that only listen to the audio, rumble.com and YouTube. It's all linked at chrisstigall.com. There's also a link and another video to watch about our title sponsor, John Ruhlman, and usmedicalplan.com, the guy that makes health insurance as affordable as he can possibly find it for you, but still covers you well. You know, the thing is, people ask me all the time, Chris, if I call John and he gives me a cheaper rate, does that mean I'm going to get cut rate insurance? No, not at all. John will shop with 80 different private health insurers that he has access to. He'll run the numbers on your current insurance plan. Maybe you've already got the best insurance out there for you. It could be. He'll tell you if so. But the goal is to, number one, find you a more affordable price tag on insurance. If it exists, it's probably like 30 to 60% cheaper out there. That's generally what he saves people. I mean, I know people that have saved thousands of dollars by making this phone call for their families or themselves as individuals. You know, if you're a senior and you need that supplemental insurance plan to go along with your Medicare, he can cover it. If you're a small business owner and you want to extend insurance benefits to your employees, but it's breaking your budget to afford those premiums to cover your employees, let John go do some work for you. And the great thing is he's an advocate. If you ever have any kind of issues with a doctor's bill or a hospital bill and your insurance, John and his team advocate for you. In fact, they'll jump in right now if you're in the middle embroiled in some kind of thing to help you transition into a new program and do your battles for you. That's what I really love. It's one-stop shopping in a area of our lives that's often very bureaucratic and time-consuming. John tries to make this as easy, affordable, and trouble and worry-free as he can. usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or 877-410-4321. Last night at the RNC, it's not that it wasn't something I noticed before, but it really, really washed over me last night as I kept feeling waves of emotion and connectivity. And may I just say that for the first time that I can remember covering Republican conventions, and I've been doing it professionally since 2004, this is the first time I've ever watched a Republican convention and felt overcome regularly with emotion. And I'm sitting next to Christine last night, and she's watching it with me. She hasn't been watching this whole week, but she just happened to sit down with me last night to watch. And I look over, and tears. She's sobbing. The Gold Star families came out on stage, and those 13 Gold Star families who lost their sons and daughters in that debacle of an exit in Afghanistan, they have still not talked to the pretend commander-in-chief Joe Biden, and they're mad and they're hurt and they haven't felt heard. And so the RNC gave them a platform, and they came out and they read the name. I would play it for you, but there's just not enough time. But one of the fathers read the names of all 13 of those service personnel killed, and their families were out on stage, many of them holding pictures or what have you. And the crowd, beautifully, one at a time, and this became a running theme throughout the night. Every time someone whose life was taken, this happened in those last night too, when people were talking about losing loved ones to violent crime or drugs. Every time these loved ones come out and read the names of their dead loved ones, this whole arena of Republicans says their name out loud back in repetition. And every time it happened, they'd read the name of another fallen hero, and the whole crowd would repeat the name back. There is a beautiful synergy and not in a cynical way. There is something really special going on inside that convention that I've never seen. Republicans are typically stuffy, stilted, awkward. Ronna McDaniel, Michael Steele, Paul Ryan, charts, graphs, clunky, awkward, right? The nominees often awkward. Everything's just kind of weird and sort of forced. Just never feels quite right. And the one thing Republicans never do well, emotion. Republicans suck at emotion, and Democrats are all emotion all the time. And for the first time, what I'm seeing is Donald Trump and his family, now running the RNC, have put together a platform and a convention that is sincerely, genuinely tugging at people's emotional heartstrings. They're not shouting about policy. And it's palpable. And the granddaughter, Trump's granddaughter, came out last night. Donald Trump Jr. comes out and he says, we Trumps don't hand the microphone off very often. But you know what they're leaning into? Laura Trump did this the night before. They're leaning into Trump as grandfather, as father. And Trump is sitting up there and he's smiling and he's surrounded by grandkids and he's hugging. Remember, we talked about him walking into that arena and how much kind of softer he looked. He's got this fraternity of colleagues and friends and family around them, all different looking kinds of people. This is a very populist convention with lots of feeling, empathy, understanding, emotional connections, building trust through emotional bonds. When you feel emotionally connected to someone, you're more likely to trust them. Emotional connections foster even deeper connections and stronger, more enduring relationships and feelings for people. And Trump understands this. And there's something different about this strategy. I was trying to communicate this with a friend of mine, and I never could really articulate it well, but we kept circling around the idea that what we're watching right now is maybe a grateful man, a contrite heart. I don't know, but they've decided to shelve the tough guy, businessman personality thing, or maybe he has, and maybe it's quite natural. Maybe he's thinking about his mortality for the first time in his life, but they're no longer talking about Trump the brand. This is no longer about policy. This is no longer tough guy. This is no longer money, 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 money. It's no longer game show. You're fired. There's no production here, folks. This is all honest to God, sincerely held deep love, affection, emotional connection. 98-year-old World War II veteran comes out, gives a better speech than the Husk ever could, said, if Trump was my president and called me up, I'd suit up and I'd go storm Normandy all over again. Sweet guy. Made me cry. Emotion. And I'm not somebody that believes in ruling yourself by emotion, but what I'm saying is I am stunned to watch a Republican convention that is making me feel emotion night after night after night. They're bringing out different faces, different colors, and all of them telling their personal stories. J.D. Vance, not a flashy speech last night, but a speech that was about family, a speech that was about struggle, connectivity, coming from nothing, stories, personal, emotional bonds. That's been the theme of this. This is a people's convention. This is whether you like it or not, and I know this makes a lot of conservatives nuts, but this is a populist convention. This is a Trump convention. The show business thing is gone. The bravado thing, the tough guy business magnate thing. He's all those things, but these are authentic human connections. And I don't know what Trump's going to say tonight, but if he keeps with this theme, and if that's really where his heart is now, and it seems to be, the Democrats are watching this in terror because that's always been their deal. The Republicans have always been the stilted stuffed shirt chart and graph party, awkwardly putting together factions of people at conventions who don't really like one another and trying to Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, Michael Steele, Ronna McDaniel. Good grief. Meanwhile, over there, they got the soaring rhetoric of Obama and the heart palpitations and the feels. Don't stop thinking about tomorrow. The Clintons. I feel your pain. I mean, they've been doing that as long as I've been watching politics, Fast Eddie. The feels, the feels, the feels, the feels. Meanwhile, our guys are always talking about the stuffed shirt charts and graphs. Listen to us. We'll go off a fiscal cliff. This is not policy. This is pure emotional connection. Have you ever seen Republicans making emotional connections with the American people? And it's just been one after another. Seamless fluidity. Night after night, speaker after speaker, emotion, pride, love, happiness, people excited. Yeah, they're fighting, but not in an angry way. This is not an angry crowd wanting to get even or settle scores. This is something else now, and I don't know if it's because Trump's life was nearly taken. Probably there's a lot of that. There's something deep going on here. There's some connectivity in the marrow of this convention and this Republican movement, whatever it is, this populist movement. Trump's hit his stride here. The messaging, the Trump family, the RNC, they're hitting on all cylinders now. It's really beautiful. And the Democrats are watching in horror. Excellence in dentistry. That's what you're going to get at Williamsburg Dental. My friend Bob Spinato is back on the phone. He's in Broomall, just off the Blue Route. And with 2 new associates, now you can expand and offer more hours, maybe evening hours, possibly weekends, Bob.
Yeah, one of the things that I told them from early on when they started with me was the value of not only their own time, but other people's times. And they run on a similar schedule that I do. If you've got a 1 o'clock appointment, you're in their chair at 1 o'clock. And it's something that across the board at Williamsburg Dental, we really pride ourselves on, whether it's an appointment with the hygienist or whether it's an appointment with one of our doctors. The other thing is we now have some expanded hours in the evenings, and even there's some discussion about opening again on some Saturdays for services.
Yeah, but not you. You're fishing. You're not kidding anybody. It's not you going to be working on Saturday. Come on,
Well, I'm in my 33rd year, and it should be the young guns.
That's right. You've earned it. You've earned it.
I feel like I have. Thank you.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. You got the news yesterday that Joe Biden is going to drop out now, I'm sure. You're confident now Joe's going to go, are you? If I heard it once, I heard it 1,000 times. That's it. Joe's out. They're getting rid of him. He's got to go. And what have I said from the very beginning about this? Now, I realize, yes, yesterday there's the big announcement, Joe got COVID. Right? So Joe's off the trail. He's back home in Delaware. He got COVID. First of all, I think Joe Biden, how would you know what Joe Biden has? Joe Biden could have Ebola. You couldn't tell at this point? I mean, the man's ailing. He's not well. He's been coughing into his hand for 5 years. Is there a single time you remember Joe Biden not hacking into his hand throughout his entire presentation? How do you know whether he's sick or not? He's got a cold or perpetually, whatever. So first of all, if he's sick, which most of you shouldn't believe, but if in fact he is, okay, so he's got a cold. Now, do you believe the timing on having a cold? Just coincidence? Smack in the middle of all this, he catches cold, he catches COVID. Coincidence, Fast Eddie?
No,
not a coincidence. Now, why would he catch cold all of a sudden and have to step off the trail? All right, let's walk this out. Let's walk this out. He legitimately has COVID. If he legitimately has COVID, number one, is this of concern? Because why? What's the admission? He's quite old, and COVID is a concern for people that are his age, because what we know about COVID now is COVID is not what it was. They're trying to treat COVID as something that debilitates you now. We all know that COVID has been reduced to the common cold. COVID is not deadly. COVID wasn't deadly when we were all being told it was deadly, and they artificially shut down the elections and businesses and schools and completely reimagined the country that we're living in now today. The hellscape and the weird thing that we now live where nobody works. Except you. Don't take it personally, but you know what I mean. Sorry, I'm never going to get off that. You don't know the number of stories that I have passed over. I don't even talk about them anymore. Almost every day there's a new story about how nobody's going to work, nobody's doing work while they're at work, People aren't going into the building anymore. People are checking in with their bosses, pretending to work, and then not really. You will never convince me American productivity was not kneecapped during COVID. Sorry. Moving on. Not going to get distracted, Fast Eddie. All right. So, we've gotten through COVID. COVID's no longer a thing. Rearview mirror, isn't it? So how is that debilitating? Can we just back away and let me ask the 30,000-foot view question? Because that's what I do. Why is COVID debilitating? When did we accept that term? COVID is taking people out? Is that still happening, Fast Eddie?
I would imagine if, you're vulnerable to it, but I can't, not in when we first saw it and never knew what it was. No, of course.
Are people still even getting tested for? I mean, sincere question. You had the sniffles a couple of weeks ago, and I said, what's wrong with you? You said, I don't know. Caught a little something. You soldiered through it. You slept for a couple of days. You're back. You're normal. You're fine. Did you think, let's go get a COVID test? Are people doing that anymore?
Absolutely not, Chris, but it's funny you bring that up. I have a friend who lives in Florida. He's a leftist, and he and his wife just got COVID, and he says to me, he calls me 2 weeks ago. He's like, now, Eddie, just be careful. We went to a 4th of July party, and we got really, really sick. And he's like, so, if you're feeling something, get tested because we both had COVID. And I'm just like, are you really? I said, do the tests even work?
What is really sick? What does that even mean, though? Seriously.
He was down for 3 days with a cold, fever, coughing, all that stuff. Nothing.
And we used to just call that a summertime cold or flu, didn't we? Before Correct. It had a name, COVID.
Yes.
So I guess first of all, I don't really accept the term anymore. I find the term illegitimate. Sorry, I just do. I don't accept when people say, oh boy, God, I have COVID. It's not cancer. Can we just stop? Can we stop talking about it like it's stage 4 cancer? It's a damned cold. All right? So I'm supposed to believe that COVID has hobbled this old man and he's got to rush home to Delaware for how long exactly? Now, look, is he old and infirm? He is. So at his age, could the cold or flu, I guess, really knock you for a loop? Yeah, probably. Which then is what? An admission that he is so weakened and so old that what is a cold for most of us, and we all can power through it after a couple of days, he can't weather it, and he's got to go home, or otherwise it could kill him, is I guess, if we take this at face value, what he's admitting. In which case, what he said in an interview yesterday makes sense, and it's got a lot of you thinking, oh, well, there it is. There it is. Here's Joe's off-ramp. I heard some people patting themselves on the back yesterday. They said, I told you this was what was going to happen. Joe was going to get sick at the 11th hour, and that was going to be his justification for taking himself off the trail. A lot of people are reading this. He gave an interview to BET, just another disaster. But so many people seized on this before the announcement. And it's interesting that this clip came to light the same day. The clip comes out, and a few hours later, he announces, I got COVID, and I'm going home. Everyone was reading into this clip. Take a listen.
If I had some medical condition that emerged, if the doctors came to me and said, you got this problem, that problem. But I made a serious mistake in the whole debate. And look, when I originally ran, you may remember it, I said I was going to be a transitional candidate. And I thought that I'd be able to move from this, just pass it on to someone else. But I didn't anticipate things getting so divided. And quite frankly, I think the only thing age brings a little bit of wisdom. And I think I've demonstrated that I know how to get things done for the country.
I don't know why. Okay, so that's enough. Why did everyone in that clip hear Joe Biden is going to get a disease and drop out? I feel like I hear things differently than everybody else. Our side immediately said, there it is, there's the off-ramp, he's going to get a disease and bail out, he just admitted it. Folks, do you know who we're dealing with? This is a man that has been in politics his entire adult life for 60 effing years. He's run for the presidency 3 times. He was vice president for 8 years. He was a senator since magma cooled. The man His entire existence is being in public life, suckling at the taxpayer teat, and most of all, his entire life has been coveting this spot of power called the presidency. He has wanted it desperately. He has never gotten there on his own. And Barack Obama finally brought him in and handed it to him as a little side gift, just to keep him close. And now what we're watching is, yes, it's true. The Democrats want rid of him. And don't misunderstand me. I think people are hearing me say that I don't think Joe Biden's going to go. Not what I said. What I have consistently said is Joe Biden is not going to just show up one morning and go, "Hey, everybody, after some serious thought, my age and infirmity, Jill and I, after some long, hard conversations, have decided I don't have the stuff to run anymore, and so we'd like Kamala Harris to do it." Or, "Hey, everybody, now that all the Democrats have called me up and say they no longer have faith in me, well, I guess I'm going to go now." Listen to me, that is not going to happen. I can promise you, I'll bet you $1,000, Joe Biden is not going to look into the camera within days and say, "Now with my advanced age and weakened state, I'm going to have to leave." Or, "Now that the party has asked me to step aside, I've given it." We're talking about a family, a group of grifters and sleazeballs who have coveted the ultimate seat of power their entire existence. We're talking about an arrogant bunch of people who believe they are bulletproof, who believe they have 9 lives, who he still looks in the mirror every day and tells himself he won't, accept his own mortality, I doubt. He puts on the stupid aviator glasses, he does a light trot, and he tells himself that he's still 60. Dr. Jill, we know. "Joey, you did great out there. You answered every question." The visiting angel. We've called her the visiting angel before that caught on as a thing. I've called her a visiting angel for years because you could see this woman has been dragging him around on a leash because she's living the life of Riley and she's not about to give it up. Hunter, Jimmy Boombots, his square-jawed barback brother, that goes without saying. They've been grifting off the family name. Fast Eddie. Joe Biden is not going to give this up this way. Would you listen to me, please? All these people, there he goes. He's got the COVID. That's the excuse. There's the off-ramp. No. Ain't no chance. He's going to have to die. Physically, literally die. Joe Biden will never look into a camera and admit, "I am too weak to continue." He won't do it. His ego, their pride, their lust for power and to hang on to it is not going to allow him to admit to himself or anyone else he is too weak to continue. Not going to happen. Number 2, and this is actually, I probably should put this at number 1. Number 2 being he won't admit he's weak. The first thing he's never going to admit, and I want you to consider this. This would be like me coming on the air today and saying, after a career in radio that has spanned a quarter of a century, professionals that I respect and admire have come to me and said, "Chris, you no longer should be broadcasting. You're no longer good at it. You've gotten weak. I don't think people are interested in spending money with the show anymore. You need to step aside for the good of the show. Step aside and hand it over to a new host. And we'd like it very much if you'd go on the air tomorrow and tell the audience we no longer have confidence in you and you think that this show is better hosted by someone else. So go ahead." What self-respecting human being is going to publicly announce, "I no longer have the stuff, and everyone around me that I respect or that I need for support or that I work with, everyone around me has said, I'm a loser who can't do this job anymore. So I guess I'll just have to hand it over to someone who's competent and can. Thanks a lot. That's how everyone will remember me as I close the door on my career." Now, that's 25 years for me. 60 years. 60. Do you think that Joe Biden wants to be an asterisk in American history and go out as the guy who was shoved out by his own party after he finally got the thing he wants the most, the presidency? Fast Eddie? Is that the way this guy's going out? The Democrat Party doesn't want me anymore. They're shoving me under the bus. I finally get to the presidency, and they don't want me anymore, particularly after he's done a month of, I'm not going anywhere. I'm fit as a fiddle. I'm spry as I've ever been. You're not going to take me out. You think now he's going to have an epiphany? And say, well, after further review, I guess I don't have it. All my friends tell me I'm lost and done, so good night, everybody. And he will be remembered forever as the withering old husk who couldn't make it a full term. He's going to announce ahead of time he doesn't have it, in which case, how can he justify sticking around? Doesn't it make sense then that he should step down right now and hand it over to Kamala right now? Why wouldn't you if you're going to come out and admit you're too weak and infirm to continue, either because you're so sick or B, you don't have the stuff and nobody has faith that you can continue? And there, people floating 25th Amendment out there. Does anybody really believe the Bidens are going to go out like that? Fast Eddie, have I made my case clear?
You've made your case clear, yes. I when you put it that way, it would appear that he would not do that.
Now, I don't want you taking that to mean Joe Biden's not going to go or that Democrats aren't going to find a way to do this. But it's not going to be this thing where everybody's, where Joe waves the white flag and says, I'm sorry, after further review. I don't know. I'm not making predictions, but I think we all know the Biden family well enough to know there's going to have to be something in it for them. And I don't know what it is. Is it money? Is it promises? By the way, there's still pardons to issue. This family is hip deep in legal trouble. And if there's a regime change, and God willing there will be in November, they're thinking, oof, we got a lot of laundry to get cleaned up, boys, before we get out of here. So there are going to be pardons aplenty being issued right and left before the husk goes anywhere. Probably blanket pardons for the whole family. This is not going to just be a, like we're not taking out the trash. This is ugly. This is very ugly. Adam Schiff coming out yesterday and saying for the good of the party, you got to get out of here. Van Jones on CNN last night. Oh, my goodness. Did you hear this? Keith Olbermann. I was on Twitter late last night. I haven't even gotten to the convention yet, and I will. But Keith Olbermann tweets, hey, CNN, fire this a-hole / moron / Trump sucker Van Jones. Huh? Okay, so there's maybe somebody more crazy and infirm in the Democrat Party than Biden, and it's Keith Olbermann. Van Jones is a Trump sucker? Whatever that means. Your remaining 837 viewers will accept no less. Fire this a-hole moron Trump sucker Van Jones tonight, says Keith Olbermann, after Van Jones said this.
There are a lot of people who want Biden to stay in. I want to just keep pointing out there's still grassroots love for Joe Biden. Everybody doesn't agree. But today is a terrible day. If you pull back and look at this thing, strength versus weakness, a bullet couldn't stop Trump. A virus just stopped Biden. You've got the nominees of this party getting their butts kissed. Biden's getting his butt kicked by his own party. The Democrats are coming apart. The Republicans are coming together. That's what's happening. And at some point, this party has to look at the reality of that.
Oh, my. Democrats are getting their butts kicked. Republicans are getting their butts kissed. That made Olbermann so mad. Now, Benny Johnson, that fraud chairman of the J6 committee, he comes out just yesterday and says, I'm riding with Biden. Just yesterday. Do you really? I mean, are people that convinced that Joe Biden, like it's just that simple? Oh, Joe's sick and he's going to quit now. Do you really think that? Why do you think that? If that was the plan, then why would he be desperately throwing all these bombs this week? I'm going to resurrect the Supreme Court and I'm giving everybody a rent cap and I'm going to, he does the Santa Claus. There was a story just yesterday I didn't even get to that Biden is going to defend his nomination virtually. What was the other one? Sorry, I had a ton of this stuff and I lost it. But I didn't even get to it yesterday. But all these plans of how Biden is going to hang on and how Biden's going to fight and Biden's going to float this and Biden's going to do that. Biden's plan to hold on to his delegates. You got a bunch of Democrat House members that are still loyal to him, and they're like, no, I'm with him, and any calls for him to step down I disagree with, and all these stories that we're reading are leaks from other people. The media is taking him out, ladies and gentlemen. He's not going. They're shoving him out. And that makes for a real problem for these people. Biden reportedly receptive to dropping out. Asked, do you think Kamala can win, he says, supposedly. This is from Mediaite. President Joe Biden has reportedly privately become receptive to calls on him to suspend his re-election campaign. Now, how in the world would anyone know that? What does that even... why are we supposed to believe that? Why do we believe this stuff? Ooh, this just in. Biden receptive to calls for him to step... I'm getting a little irritated with our lust to see Joe Biden fall, that we're buying every story hook, line, and sinker in our excitement to see it happen. First of all, I'm not excited to see him go. Just as a matter of fact, I would love for this old husk to hang around and stick it out. I don't want him going anywhere, personally. Maybe I'm alone in that, but I much prefer what we know than the devil we don't. And then there's this other thing while we're at it. So the conventional wisdom is Joe is just going to willingly step aside because he's gotten a conscience and has decided Kamala would probably be better at this and I'm old and weak. So white flag, 60 years of a political career and we're out, everybody. Biden's taking the L. Even if that happens. Here's the other assumption. Cackle Britches ascends to the throne and then she got to go find a Veep. And guess who everybody's talking about now all of a sudden? Diminutive, tiny, little pocket-sized Governor Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. Now, there's a couple of things. Number one, you notice Gavin Newsom is no longer being discussed. That was the guy everybody told me that was absolutely who was going to step in. They were going to pass over Kamala, and they were absolutely going to go to Gavin. Gavin Newsom was never a thing. Why does anybody think the governor of California can run in Ohio and win? Or Pennsylvania and win? I mean, Democrats can organize in Pennsylvania, but I mean, just in a straight-up head-to-head matchup where this country is still 50-50, slightly purple, many red states still, why does anybody think the most left-wing wacko governor in the country can run nationwide and win for the Democrats? I never believed that was the thing. So Newsom is no longer a discussion, and we're back to we can't pass over Cackle Britches, who was considered universally weak. And everybody said, nobody wants her, she's worse. I said, well, if they make her the nominee, they're going to build her up. They're going to bubble wrap her. I mean, she's going to be Margaret Thatcher by the time November hits, if that's who they decide they want to make their nominee. And it probably looks like that's where they're going. But now she needs a Veep, and everybody says, oh, it's going to be Shapiro. What we know about little Joshy is he's been humming Hail to the Chief since he was a fetus. He sees himself as president one day. Do you think this brand new governor, the new belle of the Democrat ball, at least in his own head? You remember Josh was flown out to D.C. the first minute he got elected governor of Pennsylvania. I happened to be out in Washington, D.C., there on the wharf, and I spotted little Joshy hobnobbing with sloppy choppers at an Atlantic party. And we wondered then, what the hell's he doing there? Why is he in Washington, D.C. immediately after being elected governor? So we've always had a sharp eye on him. While nobody was really talking about him, we were always profoundly aware that maybe he wanted the gig. Is it possible Cackle Britches gets passed over and he gets called off the bench? That's a better possibility than him ever succumbing to becoming her Veep pick. Why would Josh Shapiro not want to become Cackle Britches' Veep pick, Fast Eddie? There's an answer.
I'm guessing they would jeopardize his 2028 chances.
That's exactly right. He knows she's a loser. Do you think Josh Shapiro has worked all his political career to get to where he's gotten, and he wants to hitch his political fortunes to her? Now, look, he's a lot of things, but he ain't dumb. Do you think Josh Shapiro's going to let all of his cards ride on her at the top of the ticket? He wants to be the number two to a woman that couldn't even win in her own primary. She had to drop out first. He knows she's not popular. Now, again, unless Democrats have figured out a foolproof way to rig the election, and I don't think they have, if you're Josh Shapiro and you think I could be president one day, and he does, and so does everyone around him telling him all the time he's President Shapiro. He's virtually guaranteed. The minute he becomes governor of Pennsylvania, they start writing stories about on the way to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Huh? He just became governor. Right. So he's not going to step in behind Kamala Harris and take an L like that. Do you think he wants to go down in history as the number 2 in this historic transition to a loss? This hot mess? Stick around. Stick around. Be governor of Pennsylvania. Get excrement done. Take a bunch of credit for things you don't do. Rack up some wins. He's got time. He's young enough. He can wait out this excrement storm, if in fact that's really where he's going. He's not going to go bum rushing into this dumpster fire. No way. He's got a long political trajectory to think about. Isn't like it was one chance. He'll be on a Democrat debate stage soon enough. Patience, methodical. Democrats look long range, folks. They're not instantaneous panickers. They're long-range thinkers. So if, in fact, the goal was always to throw Joe Biden out or him to step down, and I believe it probably was. You know what I've said about this. I think that the Obamas, and again, maybe not literally, but the apparatus known as Barack Obama, the team Marxism that runs this government, there was always the gentleman's understanding that this would be a one-term prospect. And I believe, this is truly what I believe, and I can't prove this, little House of Cards-ish, little Netflix series, but I believe what happened, and I mean this, there was a transactional agreement that the husk helped them return the country to normalcy so that they could reintroduce a third term of Marxism. And once his usefulness was over, they knew how infirm and old and feeble he was back then. COVID was helpful for the bunker campaign. They got him elected. They shoved him in the basement, fed him some pudding, let him pretend president every now and again, and they ran the country into the ground again with more of their Marxist agenda. He did nothing. And then the deal was Joe was going to go out and say, well, it's been real, everybody. Thanks so much. I think I'm going to hand it over to Kamala, and good night. But instead, what did he do? I believe he said, I think I got another 4 in me. But he just said it in that interview, that clip we just played. He just said it. If you listen to it, everybody took from that clip last night. Joe admitted that if he got a disease, he'd bail out. No, listen to the second half of it. That's the news in it, and that's who Joe Biden is. Listen.
If I had some medical condition that emerged, if the doctors came to me and said, you got this problem, that problem. But I made a serious mistake in the whole debate. And look, when I originally ran, you may remember it, I said I was going to be a transitional candidate. And I thought that I'd be able to move from this to pass it on to someone else.
This is the news.
But I didn't anticipate things getting so divided. And quite frankly, I think the only thing age brings is a little bit of wisdom. And I think I've demonstrated that I know how to get things done for the country. In spite of the fact they're told we couldn't get it done.
Do you hear that?
There's more to do.
Everybody missed this because they all thought, there it is, he's going to get a disease and bail out. What he said yesterday was, we had a deal at first that I was going to be a bridge. I was going to be a transition guy and then hand the keys over. But I've decided I'm older and smarter than these morons. This country needs me. I'm Joe Biden, by God. So I'm going to hang around. I've got wisdom to impart. That's what he said. Now, what do you think? Tomorrow he's going to come out and go,
all that stuff about me being smarter and hanging around, never mind. They don't want me.
Well, if you haven't noticed, inflation is still at a 40-year high. The stock market looks more uncertain than ever. And a new central bank digital currency is on the way. That could be the government's ultimate surveillance tool against Americans. It seems like the government is playing games with your savings and retirement. And so what do you do to help protect yourself? Did you know you can put physical gold and silver into an IRA or a 401k with zero taxes or penalties? Millions of Americans are doing it right now. And you should consider it too if you want to preserve and protect your wealth. And there's only one company that I would recommend to you to do that. It's a company called Preserve Gold. Now, they'll go over all your options and make the process of acquiring precious metals easy and simple. So if you're looking to help protect your retirement with a trustworthy company, request your free investment guide from the experts at Preserve Gold. Preserve Gold is accredited with the Better Business Bureau. They have hundreds of 5-star reviews, so you know you're in good hands. Just text Stigall to 50505. Again, text Stigall, my last name, Stigall, to 50505 and get an exclusive offer for everybody that's tuned into this show. You're going to get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualifying purchase or a retirement account rollover. Yeah, that's huge. Don't wait. Text my name, Stigall, to 50505 today. Get your free gold and silver investment guide and take that first step. Again, that's Stigall, Stigall. Text it to 50505 and get your free guide from the good people at Preserve Gold. Last night, some Gold Star families took to the stage, and boy, was it emotional. I mean, just... And I was talking about Christine, my wife, earlier this morning, and saying that that was a moment where, you know, I noticed she, like everybody in the convention, tears streaming down people's faces. And I thought to myself, wow, this is really people feeling this thing deep. And it wasn't just them. It was the 98-year-old World War II veteran who spoke last night. This was so cool. William Perkle, Sergeant William Perkle from Wisconsin, 98 years old, and he's standing on the convention stage reading his speech. Great line from him here. Listen.
That's the attitude that saved the free world. And those years ago. And President Trump, back in Commander-in-Chief, I would go back to the re-enlist today. And I would storm whatever beach my country needs me to.
It was just so incredibly wonderful. I get goosebumps listening to it all over again. Jessie Jane Duff was watching it. Gunnery Sergeant, Executive Director of Veterans for Trump. Jessie Jane Duff, welcome to the show. Welcome back. So glad to have you. I assume you feel the same way watching this last night. Good morning.
Wow, it was incredibly emotional. I actually was on the floor as a delegate and watching this. The first part, though, the 13, I was exceptionally choked up, probably more than most people, because I happened to be at my hometown airport the day Sergeant Nicole G's body came back. And I remember dropping a friend off, not realizing this was that day, till I started to drive down the parkway towards the freeway, and it was covered with hundreds of people, and the miles of traffic backed up, and every overpass then was covered with police officers, fire trucks with their lights on, and signs everywhere saying, "Welcome home, Nicole. Welcome home, Sergeant G." Marine Corps flags, the American flag. And this is out in California. A lot of those young men and women that died were from California. And it just hit me so hard to think that this young lady had just picked up the rank of sergeant the month prior, and it made me reflect upon my service, 20 years as a Marine, retiring a gunnery sergeant, and I thought, this lady, this could have been me had it been a different time and period. So it was a tragedy beyond words, and to see that Joe Biden just was so indifferent towards those families. President Trump, when we launched our coalition for the veterans and military families, met with all of those Gold Star families at the Pepsi Cola 600 race. I believe it was 600. It's not 500. I think it's 600. And anyway, he met all of them and spoke with them. And as she said, what Nicole G's aunt said, he met with us for several hours after the initial tragedy had happened. So he has never forgotten them. And that, to me, beyond what the left tries to say about this man, demonstrates that he has the fortitude to honor all of those active duty men and women who serve and ensure that they are able to count on their country, and their families can count on their country and not be forgotten. I mean, this is just like going back into a Vietnam mindset, discarding people who served. So Joe Biden is inexcusable. He said in the debate that nobody died on active duty in a military operation. 18 U.S. service members have died. 2 were Navy SEALs off the coast of Somalia trying to stop the weapons for the Houthi rebels from coming in. The 3 National Guardsmen who were in Jordan that were attacked by the Iranian drone. And then, of course, the Abbey Gate 13. So if I can keep count, I'm quite confident the Biden administration is fully aware of the 18 that have died.
And in fact, I heard Jessie Jane Duff. I heard the parents of one of those Gold Star families this morning in an interview saying that they still have not received anything from the Biden administration but a form letter. I guess all 13 of these families got the same rubber stamp form letter, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So I would also go back to say that under Donald Trump, the VA rating climbed 18 points to a 91 percentile approval rating because he ensured that the military veterans were able to get mental health care outside of the VA. They were able to get services outside the VA if they lived more than 50 miles from a VA facility. He ensured that their GI bills never expired. There was a 10-year limitation on them. He also forgave all student loan debt for those that were 100% disabled due to their injuries while on active duty. So when Joe Biden tries to say he doesn't appreciate the military, it's more or less a talking point that they're trying to give to the left, and those that don't do their homework on this just fall for it. And veterans in active duty love this commander-in-chief. We saw his surprise visits to Iraq, I believe it was, and how he decimated ISIS. Remember, ISIS was crawling around under the Obama years and just killing so many innocent people. He flies over there, asked the commanders, what's the holdup? They said they could not get the permission to fire. He released all of that, and we had decimated ISIS, killed al-Baghdadi, who was the founder and creator of ISIS, their leader, had him killed, turned around and eliminated Salmani, the general that was out of Iran who had killed over 600 U.S. service members since 2003. He had them eliminated. He killed them with these IEDs, these bombs that he would have detonate under their vehicles. That's why you see so many with missing limbs. That was usually as a result of an IED attack, let alone those that were killed. So Donald Trump understood, you got to eliminate your enemy. And now we are sitting here looking on the verge of 2 wars. We have still have Americans being held hostage by Hamas, and the Hamas Democrats, all they can use are these river to the sea talking points and the genocide, and they don't recognize you have Americans being held, and the bodies of Americans being held. 8 are being held. Some of them are already deceased. 4 are still alive. But how in the world are we sending all this money to Ukraine but not resolving the crisis with Ukraine? That doesn't make it make sense. Make it make sense.
Jessie Jane Duff is the executive director of Veterans for Trump. She's in Milwaukee at this convention. Last night, J.D. Vance, you're a Marine. He's a Marine. What does that mean to you? Is that how does that resonate with those who have served, J.D. Vance?
Well, for me personally, this young man volunteered right after 9/11. And he picked the most difficult branch of service that he probably knew he believed. He basically said, here I am, Lord, what can I do? And he went on active duty, served in the infantry, went overseas, fought for the country, literally fought. Not all of us on active duty have ever had to fire upon our enemy. This man had to do that. And for him to be able to come out of that, use his GI Bill, get his law degree, get his degree at Yale, and accomplish so much, and literally from, as they call him, the hillbilly vice president, he does not try to deny that. He's not a pretentious person. And here, Don Jr. and him are friends, and Don Jr. said it best. I come from Trump Tower. He comes from the Appalachians. And here we now have a unified vision for what will make America great again and what will make our country proud again, what will make us strong again. It takes someone like J.D. Vance to soften that, oh, well, he's a billionaire attitude about Donald Trump. People forget he created so many businesses, built skyscrapers.
he really got New York back on his feet when him and Rudy Giuliani, in fact, really created a phenomenal city. But the average man and woman can't really relate to that. But J.D. Vance, you can relate to, talking about his Mima, how tough she was, how she could drop an F-bomb worse than a sailor. That's an old saying. So I'm sorry to all the sailors out there, because Marines can be pretty bad too. But not only that, and then to recognize his drug-addicted mother getting ready to hit her 10-year anniversary. Like, how much more relatable can we get here? Single-parent household, and then he said, and yet the Biden administration talks about his relatives, his family that comes from Kentucky, as if they're privileged. This was a reality check that poverty is just not among minorities, that Americans of all races and creeds and colors suffer from drug addiction, poverty. We keep saying, black people won't, they're getting their jobs taken. Well, guess what? The people like J.D. Vance, his family's jobs are being taken when you have illegal immigration coming over the border, and people can relate to that. Yes. All people can. There's not a single American out there that can't go, yeah, I know somebody like J.D. Vance, and this is amazing. He came from nothing and created so much.
Interesting moment at the convention that was not on the floor. Jessie Jane Duff, Executive Director, Veterans for Trump. Marsha Blackburn, James Langford of Ohio, I believe it is, and it looks like Barrasso. These three senators see the director of the Secret Service at this convention last night. Marsha Blackburn pulls out her phone. These three senators, Republican senators at the convention, see her and start chasing her through the back halls of the convention, demanding she stop and answer questions. And she did stop with them for a while Marsha Blackburn's holding her phone up, and they're really dressing her down. I mean, this is another huge, you hate to take away from the positivity of a beautiful event, but I would say the emotion of this event is largely rooted in that damn near national tragedy Saturday. And so these senators, for the first time, they're showing some real fire. I think this is resonating with people too.
Yeah, she's pretty gutsy to show her face among this crowd.
Yeah.
Really gutsy, because there is no excuse for what happened on Saturday, literally none. And you hear the conspiracy theories, you hear all that. I'm not going to go even to that. To me, this was just pure incompetence, cut and dry, pure incompetence. It was. I refuse to believe it was deliberate, because there are good men and women that serve in the Secret Service, and they don't have an agenda to see somebody get killed. That is the worst thing for anyone to have to go through. And, anyone with a heart does not want anyone. But to see the incompetence, not being able to identify that this area hadn't been swept. They identified it. They knew that it was an easy area for somebody to set up. And the man was literally setting up, and people kept reporting him. It was not like nobody saw him. They had told the local police officers. Somehow, one of the witnesses said, I couldn't believe Donald Trump was standing on stage after we said he's right here. There's a guy up there. And they allowed him even on the stage. Yeah. We saw the debacle, how the Secret Service, we saw how some of them cowered behind the stage. One fumbling with her weapon, trying to put it together. I'm not going to diminish anybody because of their gender, because there were plenty of men who screwed up that day. And I don't appreciate seeing that where people go, oh, this person's a DEI hire. That is an insult, particularly to those of us like myself who DEI didn't even exist when I joined the Marines. But I would say incompetence is not restricted to one gender.
Right.
The men failed too. They did not clear that building. They did not get that. They didn't get that shooter till he shot the president. And there was a man, an innocent man protecting his family, who lost his life. Yes. Just a tragedy. Had his head blown off. Just a tragedy.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I got to look at the video, by the way. I haven't seen it, so I'm glad that you told me this.
Oh,
this
it's unbelievable. I've never seen quite frankly, there's something different about this Republican convention. The emotion that I'm feeling just through a screen, I can't imagine what you're feeling there on the floor. But then to see Republican senators who don't do this very well, to be perfectly frank, chasing this woman down. I mean, chasing her down like the left would, and demanding she answer their questions in a hallway at a private event. It's like, I was like, all right, there you go, people. Hey, the Republican Party has a pulse all of a sudden, Jessie Jane Duff.
Thank you, because as J.D. Vance said, it's been the establishment on both sides that have created our jobs going overseas, our national security degrading. Both sides have allowed this illegal immigration. Let's make no mistake.
That's right.
Illegal immigration has been haunting us for a long time. But it wasn't until Donald Trump came along and took a hammer to the establishment, a hammer to the lobbyists. That's why so many Republicans resisted him, because he was cutting off their slush fund, their cash cows that were profiting off of their positions. Look at Joe Biden. He and his family made $24 million from overseas adversaries from 2015 to 2018. This is a proven fact with the Treasury Department, going through 20 LLCs, 12 family members. So when you see Republican senators who have always been kind of like, well, we got to be conservative, literally, in their behavior, and very, going along to get along attitudes, making deals with Democrats that we should have never made. George Bush was famous for that. You know what? They finally realized Donald Trump was telling us the truth. 4 years, in 2016, many people dismissed him, and he had a lot of battle and a lot of fight to do in D.C., even with his own party. I'll tell you, if they have not awakened at this point, there is a reason that we lost in 2020. God had a vision that I'm going to have to bring you to your knees before you can stand again. And I think the nation now realizes, okay, we get it now.
They
literally tried to kill him.
Yes.
Here you are. He says, they're not after me. They're after you. I'm just standing in their way. And now that is just not a punchline.
Beautiful. Jessie Jane Duff. You can follow her on X at Jessie Jane Duff, Executive Director of Veterans for Trump. Thank you so much for your passion this morning. We're grateful to talk with you. I hope you'll come back.
Oh, I'll be happy to come back. My voice is a little scratchy from all that yelling and cheering and having a good time. So
hey, yeah, and go rest it, because tonight's the night. Tonight's the big night, so go rest it.
Yeah, I got to really yell tonight. God bless you.
Thanks,
all.
Jessie.
Listen, make sure you tell people to volunteer for the campaign at TrumpForce47.com. TrumpForce, FORCE, the number 47.com. We need as many volunteers as we can. Pennsylvania is a battleground state. It's a swing state. And if everybody gets engaged, we can get our low propensity voters out. 40,000 registered gun owners in Wisconsin did not vote in 2020. And we would have won that election had these low propensity voters got off their couch and damn voted.
All right. Jessie Jane Duff, and also TrumpForce47.com. You're exactly right. Thanks for your time.
Yes,
come back.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. She is articulating kind of the theme of this morning's show and what I was saying earlier. When you see Republican senators chasing down this, okay, be careful, Chris. This poor excuse of a Secret Service director who, first of all, wouldn't you love to know why in the world, to Jessie Jane Duff's point, what is she doing at the Republican convention? Could there be a place she's less welcome, Fast Eddie? This Cheadle woman, the head of the Secret Service, is walking around the convention last night, and Marsha Blackburn, Senator Brasso, Senator Lankford see her, and the three of them just start chasing her around the convention until she stops and acknowledges them. Marsha Blackburn berates her for like 5 minutes on her cell phone. You can go online and see the video. It's a little hard to hear, but I mean, they dress her down, and then she runs for a secure suite or something. But I haven't seen this kind of emotion, like fire in Republicans, maybe ever. Have you? This is stuff Democrats do.
Yeah, no, they're always one with the bullhorn and chasing people down and holding the whole phone right in front of the face. You answer me. You answer me. Yeah, no, that's a Democrat thing.
There's some there's raw emotion. You know, it's Trump and J.D. Vance are what Pat Buchanan used to call conservatives of the heart. This was something Pat Buchanan coined long ago, like 35 years ago. The Republican Party, until Reagan connected emotionally, this is what made Rush Limbaugh the best there ever was. Rush connected emotionally with the policy. It is a very difficult thing to achieve politically, and Republicans generally suck at it. Reagan did it well. Rush was the embodiment of it for his entire time, even though he didn't hold office. And until a guy like Trump came along, the Republican Party has not been able to connect emotionally with people while talking about policy prescriptions. Trump has managed to achieve it. The Republican Party is now led by conservatives of the heart. The Republican Party has changed for the better, I believe. And we've been seeing it on display this week at this convention, and I am I got to tell you, I am as interested in what Donald Trump is about to say tonight as I have been ever. We have watched him speak a lot. I've been to a lot of rallies. We've watched him in 2-hour press conferences. We've heard Trump talk a lot over the last 8 years. But I think tonight maybe, hate to build it up on him. It's a lot of pressure. Not that he'll succumb to it, but tonight may be the most important definitional speech of his political career. Less than a week after he nearly fell by an assassin's bullet. And now he addresses the nation, who will be watching by the tens of millions. And, I hear people say, the Democrats are probably going to try to counter-program this tonight. This Biden thing, this COVID thing, maybe they'll spring it. I heard people say maybe they'll counter-program and Kamala will come out tonight and say she's the nominee now. Biden will hand it off tonight, and they're going to try to take the momentum away. You know what I'm going to say about that? I don't think the Democrat, short of Joe Biden dying, and I'm serious about that, all due respect, not suggesting I want it to happen, but I'm very serious. It would take something that big. Joe Biden's death is possibly the only thing the Democrats could do to cause people not to tune in to see what Donald Trump says publicly for the first time since nearly being killed. I don't think the Democrats have a damned thing up their sleeve that they could possibly do to take from the importance of tonight with Trump's speech.
At the very heart of our democracy lies a principle we hold sacred, and that's free speech. It's the cornerstone that supports every freedom we cherish, allowing ideas to flourish, debates to ignite, and progress to be made. Without it, our pursuit of liberty, our ability to challenge, or our capacity to innovate, it would be really constrained. Now, in today's digital age, the very platform that should democratize information is being allowed to narrow the spectrum of ideas we're exposed to. Really important discussions about our wealth, our rights, our future, systemically silenced or overshadowed in mainstream narratives, leaving many feeling voiceless in conversations that are really crucial to your financial independence and your security. And that's where the company Wealth Protection Research steps in. They're armed with a mission that's never been more critical. Wealth Protection Research is not a financial advisory firm. I want to be clear about that. They're defenders of free speech. They're committed to giving a voice to the silenced. In an era where dialogues about retirement, investments, economic freedoms are increasingly censored, Wealth Protection Research is focused on ensuring that diverse, controversial, and revolutionary ideas also get a platform. Wealth Protection Research tirelessly seeks out financial experts through leaders and thought leaders, trailblazers, all who've been pushed to the margins by mainstream media and tech platforms like Facebook and Google. These are the voices that challenge prevailing narratives, offering fresh, often contrarian perspectives on protecting and growing your wealth, especially as we navigate the uncertainties of this coming election. By spotlighting these thinkers, people like Jim Rickards or Porter Stansberry, Wealth Protection Research is not just sharing financial advice, they're fostering a movement toward a more open, informed, and free society. Wealth Protection Research has created a 2024 Election Wealth Protection Report, and it's a completely free report. It highlights the 3 best ideas for protecting and growing your money heading into the 2024 election, and it also contains ideas the mainstream media doesn't want to touch. Listeners to this show can get this whole thing completely free if you text the word ideas to 76626. Just text ideas to 76626, and if you do that today, you're also going to get a free gold investment kit from Wealth Protection Research. And the sponsor of that is Augusta Precious Metals, by the way, and we appreciate that. So just text ideas to 76626. If you're like me and you believe in the sanctity of free speech and the importance of financial freedom, act now. Text ideas to 76626. Claim your free copy of this 2024 election report. It's time to widen the scope of what we're told. We believe that here. Hear the ideas that establishment folks can't handle and don't think you can handle. Take control of your own financial destiny. Text ideas to 76626 to claim your free copy. The battle for free speech is the battle for our future, and Wealth Protection Research ensures that the ideas capable of shaping our financial well-being are available to all of us who want to hear them. So don't wait. Grab your free report right now. Text ideas to 76626 and claim your free copy.
Listener Greg reminded us of the Simpsons episode. What was that? Was that a 90s episode? That must have been a long time ago. I barely remember that, if I remember it at all. George H.W. Bush, or someone that they are pretending is the character George H.W. Bush visiting the town of Springfield, writing his memoir. Listener Greg reminded us of that. We went back and dug in the archives and found it. That's pretty good. Let's listen to that. That's pretty good. So this is on The Simpsons, the character of George H.W. Bush writing his memoir in the garage there in Springfield across the street from The Simpsons.
And since I'd achieved all my goals as president in one term, there was no need for a second. The end.
Yeah, so we're imagining here what Biden may tell himself or what he'll need to be able to come out and say in order to hang it up. Here's another thing that I do. I'm sorry to belabor this. I really don't mean to pile on here, but I'm going to quadruple down on this and say, here's another problem Democrats have with this whole Biden's got to go and we're going to force him out thing. I mean, George Clooney, all the celebrity types, they're all threatening now with money, right? Jeffrey Katzenberg's now come out and say donor money's going to dry up. George Clooney said you can't win. All the media types have been piling on him. Yet, again, remember, establishment Democrats in Congress are still out there as of yesterday saying they're riding with Biden. And I've described that whole dynamic and why left coast money to elitists, they don't need to worry about theirs. They got theirs. They're really genuinely worried that the Husk can't win. Establishment Democrats, like Benny Thompson, that fraud, and others, James Clyburn, for instance, and some of those guys, they're still hanging tough with Biden because they're not convinced they're not going to take on water in their respective districts at home. Think about this, Fast Eddie. What if there's a contingent of Democrats out there? I'm not even saying it's a majority of the party. And according to polls, it's not a majority of the party, but there's still enough. Let's call it a third. Okay? How about a third of Democrats really like Biden, really like the Husk? They wanted him. They're glad he's the nominee. They voted for him. He became the nominee again. They like him. Did he not legitimately get the delegates to win the nomination? I mean, he won the nomination, more or less. Yeah, they shivved RFK Jr. and threw him out. But other than that, I mean, the party kind of rigged it for him, didn't they? And by hook or by crook, Joe Biden is legitimately the Democrats' nominee. So you have some Democrat members of Congress who are calculating, I got to go home and run with maybe cackle bridges at the top of the ticket because we threw the old man over. Maybe their constituents still really like him. So what if you maybe create a mini revolt inside your party and there's a chunk, just a third, let's say. Can you afford to lose a third of your voters who are ticked off? They don't like the way this went down, that they threw Joe overboard? Think about that. Aren't they the ones that are always shouting about threat to democracy, threat to democracy, threat to democracy? Well, what is this? How undemocratic is this of the Democrats? He went through their system. He became their nominee. He won the first time. He won the second time. Now he's on the top of the ticket and wants a second term, and he says, follow me, ride with me. I'm the tough guy. I want to stick around. And they're going to sandbag him? I think there's a strong possibility a lot of Democrat voters won't like that. Now, maybe they'll all come home, and that's a pipe dream. Or watch them threaten the 25th Amendment. Democracy, right? This is the party of democracy. Our democracy. Our democracy's at stake. Democracy. Right. Joe Biden in this BET interview talking about he was asked by the interviewer on BET why he's losing support with black voters. And he says it's because he can't connect with them. And the reason he says he can't connect with them is, well, take a listen.
I think that, and one thing does change, is it's not an excuse and explanation. I would ordinarily be going through black neighborhoods on the foot, working through the neighborhoods. I have a tradition. I close every campaign, no matter what campaign, going into the projects and going down the east side. And, hey, Joe, well, how you doing? Everybody, well, just because they're my friends, let them know I'm still there. We can't do that now. Not because of the black community, because it's too dangerous for me to be out walking on a company. So what I'm doing, though, is trying to keep in touch with as many of my black constituents and letting people know that I'm available. I'm available. It's a reason why I got involved in politics in the first place. Not a joke. Not a joke. Everybody deserves a shot. Everybody deserves a shot. And we've demonstrated, you give them a shot, they step up. They step up in every community. That's why the black community is doing as well as it is now. And it's going to do better.
The black community's doing well now? I bet you if you ask the black community, whatever that is, however you survey that, I bet you they would say they're not doing all that great. Which is why you're seeing particularly young black men falling off in such a regard for Donald Trump. He says the reason he's not doing as well with blacks is because he can't walk through the projects anymore the way he used to. Yes. Old Joe riding the rails and walking through the projects. What is this, Good Times 1970? What is that, the projects? So he's just given this feisty answer about, I'm not going anywhere, I got things to do, and then he steps in it like that. He just keeps Don't you know the Democrats cringe every time he opens his mouth? He won't willingly go as they'd originally planned, and then he keeps saying things like, the projects and corn pop. And then trying to lay more of the case down that he is a pro-black guy. Hey, look at my cabinet. There's a defense secretary out there, the big black guy. Yes, that's what he said.
And so it's all about treating people with dignity. And it's about making sure that, for example, look at the heat I'm getting because I named the Secretary of Defense, a black man. I named Ketanji Brown. Because of the people I've named.
Remember how earlier in the year we were puzzling over how it is that Lloyd Austin could just leave the post of Secretary of Defense for weeks, tell no one? I think we've got our answer now.
Where's the black guy? Where's that black guy that runs the military stuff? Not here? Oh, all right. Well, never mind.
He doesn't even know his name. The black guy.
Who's that black fellow we have running the Pentagon over there?
Unbelievable. Hey, Mike Lindell and My Pillow, you know the name. 20 years they've been singing the jingle on Fox News and on the radio. And it's no secret that Mike and the company have come under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of attack. Big box stores have tossed My Pillow from their stores. Even the online retailers now won't sell My Pillow products. And who does that hurt, really? I understand they don't like Mike's position on the election or whatever, but Mike employs hundreds of Americans, hundreds of Minnesotans who make great products. If you know the My Pillow products, I sleep on them every night. So does my dog Dean. They're great products, and he wants to sell them to you at unbelievable prices, by the way, but they're backed with a 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee, and most importantly, again, they're made here in the United States. So it's not something he's asking me to say. It's just something I'd like to remind you of, that a guy who has an opinion, who happens to own a very successful American company and employs a lot of Americans who make great American products that a lot of you have bought and owned or are looking to buy and own. I just want you to know that while he takes it on the chin a lot out there for having the positions he has, he wants to keep his employees busy. He wants to keep the company moving along, and so he's passing on huge, huge savings to you in what he's calling the $25 extravaganza. Getting the word out, I want to invite you to check out this $25 extravaganza today. 2 multi-pack My Pillows, just $25. My Pillow sandals, just $25. I'm looking at the list of these deals right now. 6-pack towel set, just $25. 6-pack of towels, $25. And the My Pillows with the new Giza fabric, just $25. And here's the thing, if you order any or all of this stuff, if you exceed $75 with your order, he ships it to you for free. So free shipping on anything $75 or over. And look, with all those deals and so many more at just $25 a piece, I think you'll be very, very pleased with not just the quality, but the price point and the free shipping. It's MyPillow.com. I hope you'll use the promo code ChrisPodcast. MyPillow.com, ChrisPodcast, to take advantage of all these savings. Get that free shipping over $75.
or call 800-932-5056. Great operators, American-based operators. You can call and say, hey, I'm with you. And hang in there, 800-932-5056. Don't forget the promo code Chris Podcast. It lets them know you listen, which I appreciate, but more importantly, get you that deal. MyPillow.com or 800-932-5056. Promo code Chris Podcast.
Linda McMahon was seated right next to Donald Trump last night in Milwaukee. And we were so thrilled that she was willing to join us first thing right off the top this morning to give us her eyewitness firsthand account of that. You know, she used to serve as the Small Business Administration chief in the Trump administration. And it's clear to me that you must be very important to Mr. Trump if you got that prime seat last night, Miss McMahon. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Chris. It was really an honor and a privilege to be able to sit beside him just for a little bit last night, and he's just, I've served in administration. We've been business colleagues, and he's a friend. And it was really nice to be able to see him, especially after the events of the weekend. I was just very, very pleased to be able to spend some time with him.
I wouldn't ask you to betray any confidences, and I don't want to embarrass you, but again, there are 4 nights of this and limited seating, and it intrigues me. It must be a great honor, and he must think very highly of you to place you there next to him last night. And I'm just curious, are you that close? Is that your relationship? I don't know that I necessarily knew that, and so I was just kind of curious if you could expound on your relationship a little bit.
Well, no, he's really a very good friend. I think that he has confidence in what we were able to do when we worked together when I was in the administration, which was clearly the honor of a lifetime. And I'm just very, very proud to be able to work with him, and in my position now also as the chair of the America First Policy Institute, we've been able to talk, on several occasions about things that he would like to accomplish in a second term, and I'm just really pleased and honored to share with him some of his aspirations.
Well, I was thrilled to see you there too.
Yeah. Last night was electric. The convention was just the energy there and the unity that is being felt. And he turned to me at one point and he said, "Isn't this just a fantastic convention?" He said, "I just don't think I've experienced anything like this before." And he was just very, very pleased with the reception of the crowd and the folks all around him. And it was just an electric evening.
That's what I was going to ask you. I've covered a few of these in my career. I haven't been around forever, but I mean, I've been to enough of these. And I again, not physically there, but it radiates through the screen. This feels different. This Republican convention. My theme this morning, Ms. McMahon, has been that I don't know that I've seen a Republican Party connecting with people on an emotional level since Reagan like this.
Well, I think what you're really seeing is who Donald Trump is. He truly is a man of the people. Excuse me. And the Republican Party, I do believe, has become what the Democrat Party was many, 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 many years ago, which was that party of the people. It is the ordinary, and sometimes, as I think as President Trump alluded to them during his first campaign and his first presidency, is the forgotten men and women of Connecticut. I mean, you saw speakers at this convention over the last 2 nights from unions, from just ordinary Americans. I love the part of the speeches that are just from ordinary Americans telling their stories. And we've had mothers who've lost children to fentanyl. And a veteran last night, 98 years old, saying that if Donald Trump was the commander-in-chief again, he'd re-enlist, and he'd march up any beach that Donald Trump wanted him to march up. I mean, it was just, goosebumps, and it was a wonderful, wonderful thing to see.
I don't mean to make you play armchair psychologist, Linda McMahon, nor would I think you probably won't go there, but I'll ask it anyway. Knowing Donald Trump the way you do, tonight he speaks. We've heard it said, I think it's pretty common knowledge now, that after what happened to him Saturday, he said, we're going a new direction with my speech. He's going to deliver that tonight. Do you know much about his thinking now? Have you noticed a difference? Because to me, again, armchair psychology, and I'm watching it, I don't know how you can't be reconsidering everything about your life after you've nearly lost it in the way he nearly did Saturday. He seems different, and not in a bad way, just there's some, I don't know if the grace he's aware of, I don't know if it's contrite, I don't know if it's grateful, all those things. Do you notice that? Have you talked to him, and does he seem different?
Well, I can tell you that he certainly does feel, let me put it a different way. There are so many people who have said to him that this really was a miracle and an act of God, that except for millimeters, he would not have been sitting in that stage last night. And he really does understand how close he came to losing his life. And I don't know of any person that would go through that experience. As a matter of fact, I've heard a couple of psychologists being interviewed, and they said, when something like this happens to someone, it is life-changing. And you do go through a little period of shock as well. But he certainly is committed as ever, if not more so, to this country and to the people of the United States, and to really, and I know it'll sound like a campaign line, but he really is committed to making America great again.
Linda McMahon is with us. She ran the Small Business Administration under Donald Trump in his first term. I suspect you'll probably have another seat at the table if he gets to the White House again next year. He was surrounded by grandchildren a lot. His oldest granddaughter spoke last night. This is the thing about him. I was talking with a friend of mine about this yesterday. I don't know him at all. I've only been in the room with him a few times, and it's been for brief interactions. But what I noticed, Ms. McMahon, when he came through Philadelphia, for instance, recently, I told the story of a young boy who was dressed up as him. You probably saw this at a cheesesteak place. And the little boy is so excited to meet Trump, and then they finally connect, and the boy just, he's nervous, he's overwhelmed. He starts to cry. I mean, the little boy's so emotional. And Trump pulls out a 20, and he says, "Hey, who's on this $20 bill?" And the kid, answers. And then he said, "We're going to make this a little more valuable." He pulls out the 20, he autographs it with a Sharpie and hands it to the kid. And he says, "Hey, if your parents don't want you, you can come home with me." And the kid just lights up. And I told that story. This was before the assassination attempt. There's a softness and a gentleness and a genuine love and concern for people that I just don't think people see. And I've now gotten to see it just briefly. You've been around him a lot. The grandchildren last night, I think, underscore that. Is that what they're trying to convey a little bit? There's more to Trump than just the brash business guy.
Well, I do think that, they certainly are trying to convey that there is that other side of Donald Trump. And he's always reticent to show that sort of more tender side of him, because he, thinks that he certainly has to have, the tough image that's expected, for a commander-in-chief who needs to be ready, to defend and to fight for his country. But I've known him a long time, and I'm so happy that they're telling some of those stories. In fact, in my speech tonight, I'll have a couple of those references.
Oh, good. I can't wait. I don't want to spoil it, but how long have you been working on that speech? This is important. To get a prime speaking spot, that's a big deal. When were you asked? How long have you been working on it?
Oh, only about a week, because I think they were really putting together the full speaker lineup. As any big event comes together, there are many changes, and so they've been working on the speaker lineup for a good while. Obviously, family members and other senators and governors and all that, which are normally part of any convention. But as I mentioned earlier, the everyday Americans that are coming forth with their stories, the grandchildren's speeches, and some friends and business colleagues. And so I'm very, very honored to be included upon, in that list, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you're humble, but you're clearly, Dr. Carson, there were a lot of people that served around this president, and he only picked a couple, so you're obviously special to him. And I guess I would ask you, with that role, and as the chair of the America First Policy Institute, one of the things that I think people on the left are very concerned about is this America First Policy Institute. We've heard a lot about this Project 2025, which I'm not asking you to speak on, but people keep asking me about it, and I say, look, very simply, the left is freaked out because there are organized efforts to hit the ground running the minute they take office. And the Republican Party is not known for being organized and ready to hit the ground running. And that's clearly what you're doing, and they hate it. Is that about right?
Well, that's true, but Project 2025 is not related to AFPI.
That's right.
America First Policy Institute. Yeah. That Project 2025 is another organization. But I can tell you that President Trump is very clear, and as you could hear it in the platform on Monday night, and he had a great deal of input to put into that platform. And you can hear that it almost has some of the throwback to the contract with America. It's very clear that he is reaching out in a very plain and straightforward way to the people of the United States and to the people of the world to let them know what this Republican Party's agenda is going to be about. And he does want to be ready. Well, he's already ready. But on day one, they're going to be, action plans that have been developed for each agency so that they're ready to go. And he's very pleased about some of the work that he's having input on much more in advance than before. Look, he's done this before. Yeah. He's not the new guy coming in anymore. He's got 4 years under his belt. We saw the success that he had when he was there before. He knows what he needs to do, and he's just gonna be ready.
I'll ask in closing, as you ran the Small Business Administration for him, what about the small business owner in this country? You hit the ground day one. Let's say you're still Small Business Administrator. What do you think the action items are here under this president?
Well, one of the first things he wants to do is to make his tax cuts permanent. When the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was passed, that just had such an incredible positive effect for small businesses all over the country. And as I was traveling the country and talking to small businesses and actually talking to them at that time, even before the legislation was passed, and I would ask business owners, what will you do with money that you'll save from the tax cuts? And without fail, business owners said to me, I'm going to reinvest it, in my business. I will be able to grow. I'll be able to hire more people. And that's exactly what they did. And we saw this economy flourish. People could go to the grocery store and buy food at the right prices. They could pull up to the gas pump and fill up. Rent prices, housing prices, all of those things were right, for everyday Americans. And small businesses are the backbone of the economy of this country. And when they have a chance to flourish, that money's right in the pockets of those small business owners. And they do the things that they said they would do. And I saw it, and I was really so appreciative. So I think out of the box, those are some of the first parts of legislation that he would want to make sure continue.
Well, Linda McMahon, we are so pleased and honored, really, that you were able to get up with us this morning, talk with us a bit. We wish you the very best of luck tonight. Do you ever get nervous? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. Do you get nervous on a big stage like this or no?
I don't care if I have to walk into a room and speak to 15 people or walk out in front of 20,000 people. I'm always nervous. I always have butterflies in the pit of my stomach, and I think that just truly means you really are hopeful of doing a good job.
Well, I know you will. I know you'll knock it out of the park. President Trump does too.
Well, thank you.
Yesterday, and I was making a little bit of fun, and I was careful trying not to be disrespectful to law enforcement, but having a little fun with the fact that Butler Township, Butler, Pennsylvania, where he was nearly killed Saturday, a lot of local police were involved in that operation. And I said, I don't know that you can really expect that the Butler Township police were anywhere mentally ready to think something like that could even happen. I kind of likened it to Sheriff, Griffith and Barney Fife. Well, let me just tell you this. The Butler Township Police Commissioner came out yesterday and he said, I've had just about enough of the Secret Service blaming us. Listen to this.
What prompted me to post and on the social media platform last night, and of course obviously talk to you today, is that our local Butler Township Police, their duties that were assigned to them, and we have an operational plan that details all that, were strictly traffic detailed. They were not required or not detailed to any security detail related to the event. It's strictly traffic to obviously to help people coming in and out of the bank if there is an emergency, those type of things. We saw the number of people, the number of cars at the event. And I was so frustrated and quite frankly hit my limit again last night when I saw, again, Secret Service says it was the responsibility of the local police department. That's absolutely not correct.
Yeah, the local police department is not the entity in charge of the safety and protection of a president or a former president. But once this started to happen, once this shooting began to unfold, the local officers did then try to assist, try to see if they could do anything, right?
That is absolutely correct.
So this guy is pissed. How dare you blame us? We were there for traffic detail. You guys screwed up.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.